Hey guys, grab a coffee, drink, snack, a lunch, because today I'm going to tell you how I made my own zine at 18 with no help and no experience. This is a video that has been requested for a very long time, and I've been putting it off for a very long time. For most of you probably who don't know, when I was 18 during COVID, I started my own zine called Poser. I have like an Instagram for it and everything, and I ended up making and designing this whole magazine. I got it printed and I sold copies of it. It was nonprofit, so everything was donated. I went through the whole thing from like idea to physical copy, and I ended up shipping them all over the country, even some internationally, with no experience at all before. It just kind of was like, in a way, a little bit naive, and I just really went for it. So I'm gonna tell you everything I did, what I learned, and what I'm gonna be doing differently because I am going to be bringing Poser back. To start off, the first thing I did when I knew I wanted to do this, first you have to get the idea. So I called it Poser because at the time it was like I would go skateboarding with my friends, but I was never like very good at it. It was just kind of for fun. But it was really a time when I feel like a lot of people were like super adamant about people being posers in skating, and it was like if you couldn't do all the tricks you were a poser. And I just kind of liked the name and liked how it sounded. So I used the name Poser. I made an Instagram account, and the main basis for this magazine, I'm at NYU for film and I make art too. The basis for the magazine was that it was going to be a platform to showcase and give exposure to female artists everywhere. And I just really wanted a place that was dedicated to that, but it was also going to be nonprofit. So the first one, I ended up donating all of the money to an organization that benefited women, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, that was the premise of it. So I started this Instagram because before anything, I wanted to start getting some traction when I was in the beginning of developing the actual magazine. I made a logo first. This is something that I am doing different right now. I'm redoing the logo. But for the original one, I made the logo on this free app called Pixar. I also still use Pixar a lot for like a lot of my thumbnails. It's mostly free. But when I did the logo then, I used some random font, I think from dafont.com, and then I put it over this Ruth Bader Ginsburg type of like newspaper ad because I felt like it fit in with the theme. And then I used different photos in each of the letters. I really wanted a very unique look, but that is something I regret now because that was totally not sustainable just because it was so hard to put it together. I didn't even remember like what photos I put in if I ever needed to replicate it. The newspaper article underneath, I didn't own the rights to that, so moving forward, I would just try and own everything that you post, or especially at least if it has to do with the brand's image. I think reposting on Instagram is different if you give credit, but hand drawing myself this new logo. So I'm going to quickly talk about the Instagram and then go into depth about the actual magazine. The first post on my Instagram when I made it was a picture of the logo on top of like another picture I took, and I basically like summarized what the magazine was about, who it was for, what was going to happen with the account and the future. And then after I posted it, I reposted it to my main Instagram account so that my friends and family and then some other people could see it, because my following on there obviously was a lot more than the Poser account since it was starting from square one. And then I also used hashtags on the first post so people could find it. And it was kind of a slow burn at first. Some of my friends reposted it, so you kind of slowly build traction that way, but I will not lie, it's definitely hard to like first get off the ground if you don't have a following, which I really didn't at the time. I have more followers now, but still gotta work for that. And so after I made that first post, while I was working on the actual print, I was using the magazine to kind of keep gaining more followers and keep people's attention. And I used the Instagram account as a platform to repost female artists on Instagram and just to like kind of keep stuff coming in and out. But for every artist that has been posted on that account and that I posted, I always DM'd them first, asking, like giving like a really quick one-liner about what the account was and saying I love their work and was wondering if I could repost it and share it. And I only ever reposted if the artist responded saying yes. Sometimes they would say you can post this but not this, but if an artist just didn't respond, which it happens a lot, again, especially when you don't have that following at first, you just kind of let it go, like it's okay, you just move on and you find another artist that you think is cool. And I found these artists usually just from my explore page. There were some people that I had followed their art before. Some people then slowly, as it started gaining more traction, would start like sending me their art. What made it a little bit easier, I made a hashtag called #PoserZine so people could just hashtag their art to that, and then I can go through and look and then repost some of that. Anyways, I did that for a while. Also, if you're an artist and that's something you're interested in, you are always welcome to put #PoserZine in the like description or the comments. and I just regularly go through, and I'm gonna start posting on there again. Now back to the actual print. For this magazine, I really wanted to, obviously it was like an art magazine, it was about women, so I first made a list of all of the different artists that I either wanted or like types of artists I wanted to feature, because I wanted to have like a diverse array of different fields and mediums. For example, I made sure to have like one filmmaker, one painter, one musician, and so on. And then this was really a lot more tedious than the Instagram post because it required a lot more effort and response from the artists themselves and cooperation. And also, I would recommend, if you're ever doing a zine in the future, to see if you have any friends that want to get on board, because I did all of this alone and it was so hard. I am like almost 100% sure it would have been so much smoother if I had even one other person who was involved and wanted to help, but you live and you learn. Anyways, once I started finding artists that I was interested in for each kind of like position and slot, I would reach out to the artist and send them a longer message. This is one of the messages, for example, that I sent to an artist, and a lot of times I would be sending them over Instagram DM, or sometimes they had their emails linked. And once an artist agreed to be in the zine, some wanted their questions just like DM'd or emailed to them, and then they could write their responses and just send them back. But most times I set up either like a Zoom or a FaceTime call, so it was an actual interview where I could talk to them, which is also good if you want to get more depth and content from the conversation, because then it flows like an actual conversation instead of just a set list of questions. If it was on a call, before starting, I always asked for their consent if it was okay for me to record so that I could go back. So I would just set up my voice memo on my phone and I would record the conversation so that I could go back and hear what we talked about and hear what they said. And you always set up the times for the interviews. Obviously, you have to do what works with your schedule, but most importantly, you have to be considerate and flexible with their schedules, because strangers are taking time out of their day to be a part of your work. After each call, I would use the voice memo recording to transcribe the text from the call so that I could put it into a Google Doc so I could actually see. And this was so time consuming, because keep in mind, some of these conversations 30 minutes to an hour, and that's a lot to transcribe. There are some different applications online that you can use that'll transcribe it for you. Some are free. I don't remember which one I used, but I used one of those online ones to transcribe it, and it helped a little bit, but a lot of times, since it was free, it would mix up some of the words, so I would end up having to go back in and kind of tweak it anyways. But definitely look into that. And then after each interview, I kept a Google Doc for each person I interviewed, and I kept everything in a Google Drive folder. So I would label it Poser, Volume 1, or whatever, and then there would be different subfolders. And so each artist would have their own Google Doc that I kept with the interview questions and the transcription of the conversation. And so a lot of the questions were things about me asking about the artist's process or how they got into their medium, what the future looks like for them, what they're working on now, or any tips or fun things like that. And then after the call, I would ask the artist to send in any photos of themselves or them doing their work or just their work, whatever they were comfortable with. And I kind of gathered all of that stuff together as well. For actually putting together the book, I remember this application being really frustrating sometimes, and I don't think I would use it again. But I used this program called Bookwrite, which was free when I downloaded it at the time, which was great. I found this thing called Bookwrite, which is like a magazine planner, and basically the printing thing that I'm going to use is 20 pages. So right now I'm going for 20 pages as standard. So I planned out every single page, and I've kind of written out like my plan for every page, what I want on it, who I want on it, and it's just giving me a basic outline so that I can kind of fill in the blanks later on. So I'll just text at the moment because I don't actually have stuff yet. But zines are so popular now, and I've even had TikToks come up on my page about people making zines and like showing these different programs, which look so much better. So honestly, I would even go onto TikTok and just use the search bar to look up like zines or like DIY zine or something, and then maybe you'll come across one of those. But when I start working on this volume 2, I'll leave in the comments below what program I'm using. For the actual designs, I tried to keep it, unlike the Instagram, which I used a little bit of photos from online sometimes. For the actual zine, since I was selling it, I wanted everything to come from me that wasn't the artist photos, that they gave their consent to be in it. So I ended up taking a lot of the photos on my own. I staged a lot of different backgrounds. I would put like props on a table or plan out different backgrounds that I wanted, and then I would edit those photos in Lightroom and then put them into the zine or my own drawings on Photoshop for most of the pages. After a long time of working on this actual like design and this print, I ended up messaging like different local places near me, and I found the cheapest one was this place called, I think, Print USA. I might be wrong, but it was pretty good and the like quality was great and they came in pretty fast, so I might use them again. And then after I got in the first batch of the prints, I wanted to do like a little promo, and I'm a film student, so I had my friend Zara come to the beach one day. This was actually, I think, before I had the magazine, but we made a promo kind of trailer thing that I posted onto social media and I posted onto YouTube, and it was just like this really quick little, really short one that was just about the magazine and when it was coming out, and it was so much fun to make. So I'll play that right now.
Is your life a little dull? Do you constantly feel washed out? Perhaps even completely and utterly useless? If so, it's time to help yourself get out of the past. Poser. It really is easy living.
And then once I had all of the prints in, I kind of started, I think I started with like 50 prints. I never went over that just because I didn't have a huge following and it was just kind of something fun. So I had 50 prints. They were actually like bigger magazines instead of little, I know a lot of people do little staple paper zines. So this one was like a legit magazine, which I am still happy I did that to this day. Obviously it's a little bit more expensive, but I got my packaging supplies from the dollar store. So I got like tissue paper and this little like really pretty foil and ribbons to tie it because I wanted to make everything cute. And keep in mind, all of this money that went into it, it was coming out of my own pocket. Basically what happened was I sold all 50 and then I reimbursed what I had put into it, and then the rest of that money I donated. And then another thing I did was before the sales went live, I made a little website and I called the website Poser Zine, which you have to get a Google domain for if you don't want like another added thing, if you just want that. But it's so cheap, really. It's like $12 a year for a Google domain to have a custom link, so it's not horrible. And I just used Google search, like online websites where you could set up little shops in it, and I never had to pay for a website maker either. But I will say I didn't love the last website, so that's something I'm also gonna be redoing. That was basically the gist of making my zine on my own. I think something that I would have done differently, it's definitely hard to navigate. I could have done a lot more research. I definitely should have had other people collaborating with me on it. I think it would have made it a better product and it would have been more enjoyable and probably would have come out faster. I think too it was hard because I decided it was a nonprofit and I didn't really know how to navigate that either, which is something still that I'm doing more research on. But one thing I regret is I wish I had sent out a copy to each artist. Some of the artists and their families bought zines, which was so cool, but I feel like now and like maybe I should have just given them a complimentary one, but then you have to take in all the financial logistics from that too. So something I'm working on now. But after over 2 years, I am finally working on rebranding Poser and bringing back the zine and the website and the Instagram. I was only 18 then, so a lot of things are changing. Hopefully it'll be better. I'm making like a more clear visual mood board on Pinterest and a schedule, a plan for like Instagram posting and being consistent, and I'm gonna start reaching out to people to help out. All of that being said, you don't have to follow the Instagram, but if you identify as a woman and you're an artist, I would love to see your work and repost it. So you can just like hashtag in the description of your Instagram post would be great, but if not, like just the comments and put hashtag PoserZine, and I regularly go through that. So I'm gonna start reposting either as like its own Instagram post or a story post. I think it would be fun depending on how many we get to just do Instagram posts because those are more permanent. But if you are on private and you do that, I won't be able to see it. So just a heads up. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. I'm really excited. I hope that this was a little bit helpful. And then again, with starting up the Instagram again, that does come with also bringing the print back. So volume 2, you can see like what I did with the other one. And the first zine, after like taking out the expenses, I was able to donate $420 to this also nonprofit organization called I Support the Girls, which I just found through research. And this one collected and distributed distributed bras and underwear and menstrual products to women who didn't have access to these essential products. Just like kind of something that was aligned with the ideals of the zine. But yeah, gonna do a full rebrand of that. I'm really excited. It's been really long and I haven't done it in a while because I haven't been sure how I want to go about it. I'm just excited to be able to like share other people's art again. I think it's really cool just looking at different people's art because there's so much amazing art in the world and it's great to just support women. So that's basically it. I'm gonna decide how I'm gonna pick artists for the actual zine print. There may be like a submission thing that'll open for a period of time too, so if you want to just keep an eye on the Instagram for that in the future, probably the later end of this year, I will open up submissions for the artists to be actually like printed, which I'm really excited about. Okay, so thank you so much for watching and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.